I want to talk about the assets briefly, because they have segued from what you inherited into something else. When did you, again, make that decision to say, well, actually, I think we've got something better than I thought we had? Mm-hmm. And we've ended up with, how do you go about targeting that? And how do you go about redistributing or your spend, your drilling, or indeed your thinking about how you go about monetizing it?
Yeah, that really is the $1 million question of how it's
hopefully a bit more than that, right?
Yeah, well, we hope so. I think it really started back in the summer of last year, and frankly, for our team, Doug Forrester, Blaine Johnson, there was this, okay, there's opportunity here, in the sense that there's good infrastructure, Pan American highways, excellent highways. There's great power, and the country and the government have consistently invested in infrastructure. So that's been a huge benefit, because that speaks to some favorable cost to transport things around the country. And then so it was really Darren Hall, our chief operating officer, that as he was doing his due diligence, remembering the experiences he had over his career and what had worked and what had not worked, and some of the things he was looking at is, trying to break down some barriers, in the sense that you've got one mine, it's called El Limon, one mill, which is 500,000 ton a day, up in, let's call it, the northern part of the country. So a smaller mill, but that sort of complex has produced over 3.5 million ounces of gold, and we currently have between 1.2 and 1.5 million ounces in resource there. So this is I would say a world-class, low sulfidation epithermal vein district. Then you go down to the south to the La Libertad operation, which is a much larger mill. It's 2.2 million tons per annum processing capacity. And B2 Gold did a very good job investing in that. They built that mill, and so they did an incredible job. So what he kind of looked at was, okay, you've got these two processing facilities, roughly 250 to 300 kilometers between the two, but we have multiple different areas of ore sources. Some at Limon, some at Libertad, some at Pavon. So, now we've started to implement this, what we call the hub and spoke approach. So multiple ore sources, a total of 2.7 million tons of installed capacity. So rather than look at them as 500,000 tons here a year and 2.2 million tons a year, we've got 2.7 of available capacity to process ores. Let's try and efficiently maximize the value in the near term. And so we know we've got a lot of resources at the Limon complex. We have no reserves at Libertad, but we've got probably somewhere around 600,000 ounces of inferred and indicated resources. So utilizing the resources that we have, but then also maximizing the processing capacities that we have, rather than sinking new capital into expanding mills. Let's look at hauling that material around the country. And really this started to come out in December of last year. And then Q1, or sorry, I should say, it was telegraphed in our Q4 conference call, where we said, look, we're evaluating these opportunities because they look good. The cost structure is good, the infrastructure is good, where we can haul ores 250 kilometers and process it at our Libertad mill, because not only because it's got excess capacity, but because we're now implementing this new operating philosophy of multiple sources and two processing capacities. And, I think we demonstrated that effectively in Q1. 20% of the Libertad processing facilities metal production came from sources not on the Libertad property. So Limon and Pavon. So we're already starting to execute on that proof of concept. We've had conversations with the Ministry of Transport, Ministry of Labor, and these trucks that we're hauling ore around, they get lost in the noise. This is heavily trafficked Pan American highway. You've got to do, obviously, your public consultations with some of the tops and the tails of the communities. It's that 2 to 4 kilometers off of the main highway with some of the local communities, but absolutely no issues that we had in Q1. And in March, we got up to almost 400 ton a day hauling ore from Limon down to Libertad. So we think there's opportunity to expand on that even more.
So I get the big idea, I get the philosophy, and I get the logistics in terms of what you're putting together here. So it's a nice big plan, but you've also managed to increase the grade. You've managed to reduce the cost, and those can be sometimes a factor of obviously you're putting more ore through, you're getting more efficient with the process. It's your first full quarter. So I would expect you to, improve things dramatically, from there. But I'm interested in the bigger picture with what you're trying to do with the region, as it were, because you're Nicaraguan. That's where the experience is. You've been there a long time. You're not going to go off and do M&A in any other country at the moment. You're focused on this. Is that fair to say, or are you going to surprise us?
I mean, to be honest with you, we think there's a lot of value to be unearthed here.
Yeah.
Right. There is absolutely a lot of value. So it's really heads down in execution. But in time, do we want to become a multi-jurisdictional gold producer? Potentially, yeah. And look, if somebody were to approach us and say 6 months, 9 months, or a year, and say, hey, we think A plus B could equal significant higher valuations, we have no social issues, right? We're all investors. If we do the financial engineering and say, hey, there's an opportunity here, and one of the things that we're recognizing is that electronic trading in the market has become huge. Indexes, ETFs, things like this that we're not in yet. So we think that'll be another leg up for us alone in time. But size is starting to matter as the commodity price goes higher. So, I think it's important for everyone in this space to not have that, huge change of controls and social issues, to be able to build a better product for people that want equities that are focused on gold.
Again, you're beating me to it here. This is a terrible interview. You're beating me to these questions because that's where I was getting to. Because what I'm hearing, what I'm feeling, and obviously with the track record of the New Market guys and yourself, is it feels like you want to build something big. You've got to take care of what's in front of you. You got to get that right. You've just started, right? So there's got to be some focus. And I get that you're building cash, and we'll put the COVID. I think the market's even putting the COVID thing aside for now. They see what you're trying to do there. There's some scale. But it also feels to me like you're trying to do kind of like an Equinox situation where they have pieced together some very ordinary assets, but they are processing them in a highly efficient way. And I guess that's what I want to understand about your mentality of the management team is, what is the end game here? What are people buying into who comes to talk to you for the first time, look at your projects, look at the management team, look at the assets and go, what are these guys about? And at this price, can I still make money?
Yeah, I mean, a great question. From what we see right now in the organization, as I mentioned, prior to the pandemic, we guided the market on about 140 to 150,000 ounces of consolidated production, around $1,000 all-in costs. And even as we learn more about the optimization opportunities, the integration opportunities, cost-saving opportunities, we're already starting to see the opportunities, as you mentioned, higher grade. So in 2021, we're going to see grade increasing, but actually throughput at the Libertad mill coming down. So grade increasing, throughput coming down. We think, 70 to 75,000 ounces will be processed through their temporary suspension aside in 2020. But because of the grade increasing, by 2022, we could be up to 120, 130,000 ounces in our new operating philosophy alone. So when you think about that and you peel that back, today we're 140 to 150. On a consolidated basis by 2022, we could be 200 to 220. And then you layer on all the exploration on top of that. All of a sudden, this story gets very exciting. I'll use K92 as an example. Everyone sort of discredited that. It's Papua New Guinea. We don't really know about it. But those guys have done a fantastic job of executing and finding more. That if you strip everything away, that's what we do. We're always depleting. You have to find more, or you have to do creative, financially engineered M&A to create and unlock more value. And so that's why we're doing 50,000 meters of drilling. So I think there's a lot of value to be unlocked here with Calibre and these assets and our new approach. And to your point, we're generating great cash so we can reinvest in our business and our asset base to do that, find more,
There you go.
And we're already having success doing that.